Hi everyone, I'm Bramble and today I am talking about Imbolc, Candlemas, St. Bridget's Day, whatever you'd like to call February 1st. It is midwinter and I threw a workshop for the first time and overall it went very well. Everyone, I felt like, really enjoyed it and thought I've done this before, which is exactly what you would hope for. So I want to talk about what I did, and I'll put the worksheets and stuff that I printed out and kind of created for me as a guide to help establish the workshop to become what it was. So for day one, I just wanted it to be very simple for people to get to know each other. And with it, we had an optional thing that they could do ahead of time. I did not give enough instructions apparently, and we ended up discussing it that day, and then they can do it on their own time, either sometime during that weekend or afterwards. It was just the ChatGPT Dream Life. And I talked about how I took my story and created a meditation for myself so I can visualize my dream and help me bring it into reality. And I think creating a meditation like that from the ChatGPT prompts that it gives you is so helpful. I personally use CapCut, but you could probably use Canva or any other video editor like iMovie. I just really liked CapCut because it has a lot of sounds that you can use. So that was just an optional thing. Overall, if you don't know anything about midwinter, it's basically about spring is starting to emerge, so maybe we can start planting our seeds or planning for spring, and it's all about renewal and rebirth and creation. Things are starting to bud and come to life. So the whole weekend is kind of, okay, what do we want to bring into fruition when spring comes around? So it's a lot about evaluating what had happened in the dark winter months and the lead up to winter and from the fall time as well. So there are some journal prompts that we did and talked about, and then we also did some yin yoga on Friday. So then Saturday we had a meditation that we did, which is the one on my YouTube channel, to help reprogram your subconscious. And when it comes to bringing something into the world, like creation and whatnot, if you have any hindrances, you will need to reprogram your mind to help bring that into the world. So that was the meditation we did Saturday. And then we went on a hike nearby, and that was about an hour or so of our time, probably closer to an hour and a half. And then we also talked about what we were grateful for while we were hiking, which helped us stay present and be grounded, and I feel like continue building the connections when we were all together in that group setting. So afterwards, we had lunch. It was a potluck. Since I've never done this before, I'm not charging. So obviously I'm not going to be providing all of the food. That would be very expensive for something that's free, and then I put everything to put it all together and everything. So it was a potluck, and I think because we're all women, we just all went above and beyond. I did create a sample menu for what's available seasonally in our area and what would be like on theme for Candlemas, which is very much like bread and milk and just dairy in general. And so people kind of like took that and either use that exact recipe, or they may have substituted some of the foods for something else, but everything was generally hearty. But we had so much food, we didn't scratch the surface on eating everything for the couple of days that we had. And it's just, I feel like that's just such a woman thing. We literally were feasting. I think for me personally, I think we had more food than what I had at Thanksgiving. And it was just, I think at most we had 6 people at a time, maybe 7, but I think just 6. And we just had so much. We probably could have fed like maybe 15 people. But it was all so spectacular, and I think I'm just so grateful for everyone who did come. I feel like everyone who came really contributed to the group, and we all had such a great, unique experience, and already like we're spiritual and had different like perspectives on that and what we could all bring to the table, which made the experience even better and more transformative for everyone. So after we had lunch, it was art time, and it was a kind of like an art therapy or interpretive type of art setting. And so it's all based upon the different personas of Saint Bridget, and people can pick one and then do something very literal or more interpretive based upon that persona of Saint Bridget. And for me, I did the one specifically called like the Midwife of Transformation, which is based upon just Imbolc, specifically on renewal and rebirth. And so I ended up painting a orange calla lily because the whole weekend was also centered around creativity, so the sacral chakra. I ended up painting the painting in blue as the background. And it ended up kind of like looking like the water, even though it was kind of like more of like supposed to be the sky. And I just doodled some more flowers for rebirth. But what's so interesting was I felt called to do this, but also not really super inspired to do it. But it feels so specific towards what had happened on day 3, which I'll go into more detail after. After we did the art and we all shared our art and our interpretations of ourselves and maybe others, we then did divination, and that was really nice. It was some people's first time and some people dabble, and so I talked a little bit about the theories of divination, and I didn't want anyone to feel like there's only one way to it, and I didn't want like dogma to be, pushed down anyone's throats. I want them to know the history of it and all the different theories so that they can then have their own interpretation of it. Like, I don't want anything to be like it has to be this specific way and for this specific reason, because that's just not true. And we then had one of the participants end up leading it, and in her previous group session they used one deck and they all pull a card from that deck, and you don't put the cards back, which I've actually never had that experience before. I think this specific card deck was really great for that because there are several cards that have similar meanings, and so if everyone needed a similar meaning, then they can still get that from this deck. It was from the Seasons of Witch, and it was actually the Llamas deck, and we ended up doing past to future, and it was very spot on. I don't think I've had such a spot on session where everyone felt like it was perfect for them. It was very, very cool. After that, we had a fire just to close the session and talk. One of the things I would probably feel like I may need for the future is to create a more strict schedule and allotted times, because we talked a lot and I need to probably be a better, I don't know if a facilitator or host would be a better term, or something else. Like, I felt like I was great at helping to facilitate the conversations, but I wasn't great at, okay, we need to move on and steer the conversation in a new way. I felt like I wanted to make sure everyone felt heard and that they all were able to say what they needed to say, but it ended up dragging on a lot of the things into, I would say, overtime, where we didn't do some of the things that I had planned, and some people had to leave, and I want everyone to be able to experience everything, but with, I would again say, because we're a group of women and we love talking and we were just learning about each other, we got on to rabbit holes and conversations that needed to be probably sidebarred for maybe later, like when it was maybe not a time where we're doing an activity, but a relaxing time, like the meals or something where we didn't really have anything scheduled. But I thought we would actually have more blank time, and we just did not have that at all. We probably could have kept doing so much if we all rented a house and stayed there. We would probably fill up that time too, based upon the group that we had. And I feel like people would have actually really enjoyed that experience as well. But that wasn't this. I did plan on having like breath work on the first day that we didn't have time for, and then I wanted to do breath work around the fire as well. And I wanted to do a trance and also around the fire specifically, and that did not happen. So that was the ideal schedule, but the reality was we talked a lot on Friday, did the yoga and talked about the ChatGPT, and then had all these other conversations, and we ended up actually not doing the journaling questions that day. We went way beyond the time that was really allotted, and people needed to leave. And so we didn't do it Friday, and we ended up doing the journaling questions on Saturday morning. And so we did the journaling questions, and instead of the meditation that we were supposed to do first thing. And so we did journaling, and then the hike with the gratitude, and then the art. And so we moved the meditation to be before the fire. But because, again, we kept delaying, we had to do divination first, which I wanted to go into a trance-like state around the fire and then do divination last. But I think the way that we ended up changing things, where we did not do a trance-like state around the fire, we just talked and hung out and just kind of regrounded ourselves and got to know each other more, was exactly what we needed. I felt like we all needed some time to bond and connect and really feel like we're bonding like as friends and sisters. And it was very wonderful, and I felt like things just changed to be what was needed. So I always originally planned for the third day to just be mostly up in the air. I did plan something, but just like with all workshops, we all bring something to the table, and we reevaluate what ends up being needed at the end because of everything that happened before. And so I originally planned to do Kundalini based sacral chakra yoga, and then just goal set of what we wanted to bring forward from what we learned. We did not do either of those, which is totally fine. We ended up doing the Overcome Selfishness meditation, because we did end up talking about that previously in the group quite a lot. And I think we all had some epiphanies on how we can be more empathetic and compassionate towards ourselves and others. So we did that. And after that, we decided to do energy work, which I originally did have as an option of doing either like Qigong or energy work, but I didn't know how it would work out and whatnot. So we ended up having one person who is studying to be a Reiki teacher, and I had someone else in the group who also was level 2 Reiki, who also has experience doing polarity therapy as well. I've also had experience with polarity therapy, doing it on people, but not too much. And so we had like some basis knowledge, and someone else also had some experience with energy work. But we are all, I feel like, very intuitive and very empathic and on our enlightenment journeys. So it felt like a really good group to do that with. And so we cleansed the space, we went outside and grounded, and then we cleansed ourselves with smoke, and then we did the energy work. So we all did it together, hands-on, and or in the ethereal auric body, whatever we felt called to do. And we just did it one by one with each person, and everyone had such a wonderful transformative experience. We all felt really heavy after the second to last person, and we needed to eat, we needed to reground ourselves. I felt like I was not getting that energy out, that I may have kept it within me, or I don't know, maybe it was somehow I felt drained from having done energy work on 3 people so far, and that it's a lot. I don't know, I don't have that much experience. I've never really felt that before, but I felt like I wanted to throw up. I had such a heaviness in my chest. I was so drained. I felt like I needed to cough or scream. It was a lot. I felt like I needed to cry and convulse and shake, and that I was going to pass out. And I kept trying to just get it out. And I just say very grounding foods to help, but I just knew that once I was the last person to go, that I felt like I was going to, like, I might cry. I've always wanted, I've seen those experiences online of people having these transformative experiences with energy work, and I've had some done, but it's never like, wow, like so transformative. But I just like knew that I was probably going to cry, and I totally did. And I've never had this experience before, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. I didn't have any visuals, I just had the feelings, and my whole body was vibrating. I could just feel like everything like out to here, and there's tingling. It's like when you hyperventilate, but when I've done that in breath work, I don't know, it might last like a minute. This was like, I don't know how long I was in that state, but it lasted even after the session was over. I was just like vibrating at such like an intense energy level, and it felt amazing, but I was so sad. I was like shaking a little bit. It felt like I was like kind of like trying to get something out, but initially I felt like this sludge and everything was stuck in my throat, and I was like trying to swallow. cough, but I felt like I just had to keep breathing. Like the energy was stuck and like I need to move it. So I kept trying to breathe very intentionally to get things moving and out. And at first I was like, I don't know, maybe I guess I'll just continue feeling like this because I wasn't really feeling much yet. And then we're at my house, by the way, and I have 3 cats. And my one cat decided to come over, and she's like right here. She has allergy problems, and so she kind of like sniffs like a dog, and so you can hear her. She's like, and so then I start laughing because I just hear her, I guess, evaluating me. And then right after that, I start crying. It's not super intense yet, but I'm crying. And at one point she went on my chest, and then she somehow came over here and tapped me with her paw. And at that point I started losing it. It's when I started like going up and down with like my chest, and I'm crying, and it's just like it's coming, like I'm not wailing, but kind of wailing. Then she somehow made it down to be in between my legs, and she had even, one of the people told me that she put her paw on her hand when she was doing energy work, and then was just like grooming her paw while touching her hand. And it's just so interesting that some other people said that she looked at everyone in the eyes and felt like she was like either guiding or making sure that they were taking care of me or guiding them or whatever, I don't know, but she definitely did something. And it was so interesting. Nearing the end of like, I guess, me coming down, she did end up leaving at that point. And we ended up talking about how they felt like there was a lot of like stuff coming out through like my sacral chakra, which was interesting because of like I felt like that's exactly what I painted here, and I didn't even do so that intentionally. I was just like, oh, I think I want to do it to be blue. And when I looked up calla lily, because I just had an image of painting a calla lily, that the orange ones came up first. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that one. And it just felt so fitting to like what I experienced. And they said they felt like such like a strong withering energy. One person felt like dragon energy, and another person said they could see like me smoking, and that very cleansing power like coming out of my hands. Another person felt like this more ancient energy. So because of all that, they recommended that they felt like I needed a lot more fire, that I needed to work with fire more and to awaken my inner fire. So I think I'm going to look into more on draconic magic, which I was already interested in and have done some research, but I felt like I need more knowledge of that, and I'll probably do a meditation, make my own meditation for that after some research. I did do a meditation after everyone left. I needed to cleanse the whole house. It felt like there was just so much energy. So I cleansed the whole house, and I cleansed myself. I opened like every window that I could possibly open. It was just like a lot. And I definitely kept crying after the energy work was done. It was just so much. My friend said like they felt like she needed to support me to take off the weight that I was carrying. And I've never experienced that before. I am sensitive, and I will cry when I see people cry. But I tend to try to not cry. I'm better at it now, with being vulnerable and expressing myself, but when I was younger, I didn't like being vulnerable. I didn't like my emotional side. I cried very easily, and I hated that about myself. And after a certain point of like continually hating myself, I became very angry, and I shut down like all those like tears and emotions, and just had rage instead. And so it definitely felt like it was trying to get all that out. It was just nothing I could ever experience, and it was amazing. Speaking with some other people, that they've also said that they have experienced somewhere like, yeah, the most powerful seems like when there's multiple people doing energy work on you at the same time, but it depends on who are the people who are participating, whether they're in their ego or not, and if they have good intentions. And I felt like because we are all very intuitive, and I feel like everyone had talked about basically having different forms of ego death, that it was very transformative for everyone. And I'm so appreciative of everyone that was there, helping to facilitate change within myself, and I hope that I was able to provide that for them as well. I ended up doing some reflecting and like some divination after people had left. Let's see. And so I wanted some more information on what I was supposed to learn and what to move forward with. And so I got like a reverse 4 of Wands, what just basically I got was like, I need to be grounded in my home, that it's like a very much of a transition period. And then I got the Hanged Man, which is take a look at life from a different point of view, which we talked about that a lot. And I definitely felt like that afterwards, like that I could just be grounded in myself and hopefully see people as human and with more of a compassionate and loving view than I felt like I could have before, which I already knew I wanted to work on. It's why I made that meditation. I felt like I was so stuck in those negative energies that I definitely needed it. And it's interesting that I came back here. I also pulled that exciting things are coming your way. I have an archetype deck, and so I asked it what my dragon persona was, and I pulled the Mystic card. And then I wanted again more guidance, so I asked it what would it need to tell me, and I have the Sahara Rose Yogic Path deck as well. So I got the Sacral Chakra card, as ironic as it is, which just briefly is just like time to create, money leads to freedom, and I am my greatest love. And I have so many creative pursuits that I really want to do, and it just is very validating that this is what I need to do, and I want to continue doing workshops. It'd be great if in the future things become monetized and I can possibly not do my main job, but that's also fine as well if it stays free and I create more of a community and connection base, just because I feel like certain things like shouldn't be that expensive. You need to pay for your living, but it shouldn't be too much. But overall, it went better than I could have ever thought it'd have. And I really hope everyone got out what they needed, and I hope in the future that these become more and more regular and we transform into who we want to be in our highest and truest will. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.